Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to my beloved lecturer, Dr. Binti Mohamad Saidin. Today we are from Group 4, who are Mohd Shahmi bin Mohamad Shukri, Mohd Aiman bin Mohamad Ali, Mohd Fakhruddin bin Jamalrudin, Mohd Luqman Hakim bin Saidin, Hanysha, and myself, Balqis Binti Azhar, would like to present our video of marine policy subject, which is issue and challenges to reduce carbon footprint of maritime transport operations on marine environments.
Now, I will explain about introduction. Firstly, a research by Azhar 2019 mentioned that the environmental is defined as including ecosystem and their constituent parts, all natural and physical resources, and the social, economic, aesthetic, and cultural conditions which affect the environment or which are affected by changes to the environment. According to Tushari 2019, the marine environment acts as a highly productive zone that consists of different kinds of subsystems, such as coral reef and seagrasses, and it covers 71% of the Earth's coverage. As mentioned by Luqman 2011, the shipping industry is responsible for the carriage of 90% of world trade, and it remains the most energy efficient mode of transport, and shipping is expected to have greater impact on global warming considering size of vessel.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Mohamad Aiman bin Mohamad Ali. My metric number is 56261. So I will continue with problem statement. We derive ideas for the problem statement from article describing the issue and challenges of minimizing the carbon footprint of maritime transportation activities in the marine environment. Maritime transportation continues to have detrimental consequences for the marine environment, such as air pollution and greenhouse gas emission. Large carbon footprint absorb resource and large and local scale ranging from maritime transport activities in the country. As more individuals with large carbon footprint consume resources, greenhouse gas emission rise, further accelerating climate change. Maritime transportation emit roughly 940 million tons of CO2 each year, accounting to about 2.5% of worldwide GHG emission. Research objective. First, to investigate the issue and challenges to reduce the carbon footprint on the maritime environment. Second, to elaborate the risks of the challenges from carbon footprint towards marine environment. Third, to find the best solution or alternative method in order to reduce the carbon footprint impact towards the marine environment.
Next, I will explain about methodology. A qualitative approach was selected to conduct this study. The secondary data is one of the type of data collection used to obtain data related to the study conducted. In order to complete the research objective and resolve the issue, the data that have been collected are from other sources such as articles, news, former websites, report, and journal. Next is research framework. In this framework, it involves 6 framework. Firstly, introduction, research problem, research objective and methodology. Second, literature review. Third, result and discussion. Fourth, recommendation and way forward. Fifth, conclusion. And last one is references.
Next, I'm presenting about literature review for our group. Seas cover 71% of the Earth's surface. Most maritime transport occurs exclusively along certain routes that are often utilized in shipping itineraries. There are evolution of maritime transport. The evolution of ship illustrates the evolutionary design of the human and machine species. As it travels and spread on Earth, it will be further, faster, more effectively, and with great long-term power. Each vehicle size and its design. The larger vehicles is no scaled-up replica of the smaller. With increased body size, the size fraction that the lifting organ occupy in the total vehicle growth. Every vehicle size has a niche, a supporting region, and a population that it belongs to. Moreover, over 70% of overall international trade volume is carried by sea, accounting for 80% of total cargo quantities. Maritime transport accounts for more than 80% of worldwide trade volume and is the backbone of the global economy. This network structure has an influence not only on the economical growth of the affected regions, but also on their ecosystems. Ship movement are significant source of carbon dioxide emission and contribute to climate change. Research by Kosowska Stamirowska 2020. Nevertheless, there are issues and challenges in maritime transport operation on the marine environment. Research by Walker 2018 mentioned that the maritime shipping-related air pollution influence both the environment and human health. Maritime transport is accountable for 33% of all trade-related emissions from fossil fuel burning, including 3.3% of global carbon dioxide emissions. This is evident by Sinha 2019, who stated that carbon emissions are a major contributor to global warming. Various industrial operations emit substantial amounts of carbon dioxide into the environment. Then, research by Klufala 2018 mentioned that, in fact, Malaysia is ranked 30th in the world in terms of carbon emissions. For example, carbon dioxide is the greenhouse gas most impacted by human activities. CO2 emissions are mostly caused by the burning of fossil fuels. Half of its emissions remain in the atmosphere and contribute to global warming, while the other half is absorbed by natural land and ocean carbon. In other words, the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere acts as a vital indicator for monitoring global warming. Research by Ye 2017. However, there are an obstacle to reducing carbon emission, which is the high cost of adopting renewable energy, which decreases the market competitiveness of firms employing clean energy from research by Wu 2020. Besides that, the greenhouse effect is a major component in keeping the Earth warm because it prevents part of the planet's heat from escaping into space if it were to escape through the atmosphere. Without the greenhouse effect, the average global temperature on Earth would be substantially cooler and life as it will be impossible. Water vapor, CO2, methane, nitrous oxide, and other gas are examples of greenhouse gas. CO2 and other greenhouse gas act like a blanket, trapping infrared radiation and preventing it from escaping into space. Thus, the obvious impact of greenhouse gas is the steady heating of the Earth's atmosphere and surface, it resulting in global warming. Research by Kweku 2018. Therefore, research by Chen 2016 mentioned that with global warming accelerating and greenhouse gas emission growing, all nations are facing the harsh reality of the need to reduce carbon emissions. Last but not least, research by Walker 2018 mentioned that maritime transport harm the marine environment, including air pollution, greenhouse gas emission, release of ballast water containing aquatic invasive species, historical use of antifoulant, oil and chemical spills, dry bulk cargo release, garbage, underwater noise pollution, such as ship strikes on marine megafauna, risk of ship grounding or sinking, as well as massive ship pollution of port during transshipment or shipbreaking activities on the maritime environment.
Next, I would like to explain about the result and discussion. In this chapter, this description is based on the objective of the study. The first objective is to investigate the issue and challenge of reducing the impact of carbon on the marine environment. First of all, we all know about maritime transport has an important role in the international trade. According to United Nations 2016, maritime transport has become the backbone of international trade and the global economy. However, in this development, there are also issues arising from maritime transport operations. Among them is the issue of carbon emission released by maritime transport and harming the marine environment. The amount of emission from ships is influenced by various factors. According to UNCTAD 2020, the amount of carbon dioxide emitted by ships per ton mile is influenced by various parameters or factors, including ship type, speed, hull design, ballast, size, technologies, and type of fuel used. From this figure, it shows about annual carbon dioxide emission per vessel by vessel type 2019. According to the UNCTAD 2020, from this figure it released, ships of larger size will naturally release more carbon dioxide per mile. However, in terms of per ton miles, larger ships will emit less carbon dioxide. This is because smaller vessels such as container ships that have a smaller size of up to 999 TEUs emit twice as much carbon dioxide per container carrier. Container ships tend to use higher speed in its transits than dry bulk carriers. This is the reason why carbon emissions from container ships are higher than bulk carriers in terms of per vessel per year, as shown in this figure. Therefore, this leads to increased emission of carbon dioxide gas.
From that figure released by UNCT edit 2020 also, bulk carriers and container ships are the higher carbon dioxide emitting ships in 2019, about nearly 250 million tons per year. In addition, liquefied natural gas carriers and cruise ships emit higher amounts of carbon dioxide per vessel because their average size is much larger than offshore and service vessels. Besides, according to the International Maritime Organization (IMO) on the issue of carbon emissions, there has been an increase in carbon dioxide (CO2) emissions by maritime transportation in shipping industry. From this figure, the total of shipping carbon dioxide (CO2) have increased from 962 million tons in 2012 to 1,056 million tons in 2018. The shipping emission in global anthropogenic emissions has increased from 2.76% in 2012 to 2.89% in 2018. For voyage-based international shipping, CO2 emissions have also increased from 701 million tonnes in 2012 to 740 million tonnes in 2018, an increase of 5.6%. Therefore, this suggests that there is an increase in amount of greenhouse emission into the air caused by maritime transport operations. Next, for objective 2, there is a risk challenge from carbon emission to marine environment such as climate change challenge that will affect the environment. This is evidenced by studies from Kozowska Stamirovska 2020 mentioning that the future of maritime transport industry is highly linked to the climate change. The movement of ships contributes significantly to carbon dioxide CO2 emissions, and future shipping routes are expected to be affected by effect of climate change. Besides, according to Sinha, ETL 2019 mentioned that carbon emission is a major contributor to global warming that is causing climate change, and controlling emission has become a challenge in the last few decades. This is because research by ETL 2019 stated that half of all carbon emission remain in the atmosphere, contributing to the global warming. According to the Do ETL 2019, the global warming has resulted in the melting of glacier. Therefore, this poses a challenge to certain parties in reducing the problem of carbon footprint on the marine environment, and also a challenge to the world to overcome it. Furthermore, the risk of challenge from carbon to the marine environment causing climate change will also affect the sea levels. Carbon emission by maritime transport are also one of the contributors to the sea level rise and is a risk challenge that needs to be faced. According to Hearns ETL 2018 stated that globally, climate change induced sea level rise (SLR) is on the rise. Regionally, the lowland of China, Vietnam and Bangladesh, as well as island of Malaysia, Indonesia and Philippines are among the most endangered places on the earth. Sea level rise has a significant influence on the ecosystem and civilization. It endangers coastal communities, economic activity, and vulnerable ecosystems such as mangrove, coastal salt marshes, and wetlands. Next, for objective 3, the issue of rising carbon emission caused by growing transportation operations needs to be addressed. The methods that can be implemented is in terms of law enforcement. The implementation of Annex 6 under MAPOL has been implemented to reduce the problem of carbon emission by ships, limit measure of pollutions contained in ship exhaust gas such as sulfur oxides, nitrous oxides, and prohibits deliberate emission of ozone depleting substance (ODS). Adherence to these rules among ship owners can reduce gas emission into the air. Furthermore, the methods for reducing carbon emission can also be implemented in terms of the installation of exhaust gas cleaning system on ships. According to IMO 2019, the installation of gas exhaust cleaning systems or scrubbers can eliminate air pollution. Scrubbers can reduce sulfur oxide from ship engines and boiler exhaust gas. This gives the ship the possibility to continue using heavy fuel oil. Therefore, the emission of harmful gas into the air can be reduced if all vessels are equipped with scrubbers on the exhaust. In addition, the solution or alternative methods in order to reduce the carbon footprint impacts toward the marine environment is great energy efficient ship engine technology. According to UNCT edit 2020, The short-term measure of engine power limits proposed by Japan allows ship owner to meet the requirements related to the energy efficiency index for existing ships. Change in terms of engine power limits can reduce ship speeds by minimizing change in ship's performance. This can reduce fuel consumption as well as gas emissions. Lastly, the type of oil consumption by ships need to be emphasized. According to Law ETL 2017, stating that liquefied natural gas (LNG) used as ship propulsion fuel is considered clean and reliable. The use of this fuel can reduce emission by around 20% to 30% CO2 due to the low carbon and hydrogen ratio of the fuel. Therefore, the use of LNG fuel on ships can reduce carbon emission into the air compared to the use of heavy fuel oil.
Hi, I am Mohd Fakhruddin. I will explain the solution to reduce carbon footprints by maritime transport. First, using electric power and propulsion systems. The generation and propulsion of electrical energy is an essential aspect in lowering emission of carbon, particularly on ships with various operating profiles. Because the higher energy efficiency and variable speeds of propulsions can lower fuel consumption considerably. Ships using efficient electric power system require less fuel to convey the same tonnage as mechanically driven vessel, reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Second, improve existing ship core system. The new General Electric GE power conversion technology, for instance, come using predictive software to anticipate change of position and hence minimize fluctuation in the thrust of a vessel. It will improve the control strategy, the operation closed rings, energy storage, and varying frequencies. All these steps allow the operator to save up to 10% in the use of fuel that can substantially lower the carbon footprint of a ship over time. Last one is streamlining hull and propeller design. A further step that can be taken to reduce emission of carbon is to simplify ship design so that they can move more quickly into the water without consuming as much fuel. Hull shape optimization is a way of reducing drag and rationalization of the ship, made feasible by technological improvements which allow usually recognized device contained in the hull. Propeller design advancement can also save gas line. An installation in a recently installed Great Eastern ship, for example, of a MAN diesel and a turbo retrofit propeller is estimated to save 4% of the ship fuels. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Maritime transport is a mode of transportation in which cargo of goods or passengers are carried by sea. Maritime transport is linked with international trade, which is the backbone of economic routes. Sea transport provides high capability and volume of moving vast quantities of cargo in the voyage, even though the speed is relatively slow, between 300 and 360 nautical miles per day. There are several issues and challenges to reduce the carbon footprint of maritime transport on marine environment nowadays. Concentration of CO2 and greenhouse gas emission have a predominant negative influence on the ocean. Rising greenhouse gas emission and their consequence on the climate are increasingly being recognized and highlighted as major challenges. Vessels use fossil fuels that correspond with the engine and will produce smoke containing harmful gases. Despite that, the ocean also absorbs the large proportion of the heat energy generated by greenhouse gas emissions, resulting in rising ocean temperature, which have an impact on marine species and ecosystem, actually resulting in coral bleaching, loss of breeding ground for marine fishes and mammals, changes in water temperature, acidity and deoxygenation, as well as changes in oceanic circulation and chemistry. The solutions in order to combat all the challenges to reduce the carbon footprint are introduction of electric and propulsion systems, improvement of ship core systems, and streamlining hull and propeller design. The electric propulsion system has been a prospective candidate for ships, along with its potential for energy savings, environmental protections, high efficiency, and reliability. With the consistent trend of artificial intelligent AI of marine system nowadays, every ship should have an electric propulsion system to reduce the carbon footprint of maritime transportation. In a nutshell, it can be concluded that in order to respect and correspond towards environment sustainability, shipping and the oceans, Sustainable Development Goal SDG 13 and SDG 14 play vital roles as the guidelines.